witnesses, Senator Wagner and Senator Weber. You have the floor.
Would you like to go first?
I could.
Oh, go for it.
Thank you. Thank you, President Wagner. Chair Meek, Vice Chair Boquist, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here in support of Senate Bill 2. For the record, my name is Suzanne Weber, and I am honored to represent the people of rural Northwest Oregon in Senate District 16 as a member of the Oregon Senate. No matter where I go, no matter who I talk to in my district, there's one thing that everyone across all parties agree on. We need more housing. We need all kinds of housing. Affordable, market-rate apartments, houses, townhouses, duplexes, fourplexes, anything and everything that we can produce that will ensure that every Oregonian has a warm, safe place to live. Senate Bill 2 is a more outside-the-box concept to incentivize additional rental housing by providing a tax deduction for those who rent rooms in their primary residence up to $1,000 per month. The average mortgage payment in Oregon is $1,865 per month. In order to be able to afford that payment without being considered housing poor, an Oregonian would need to make $75,000 per year or $36 per hour. However, if one were to rent 2 rooms in their home for $500 each, not only does home ownership become substantially more realistic under this legislation, $12,000 per year of a homeowner's income becomes tax-free in Oregon. It cannot be lost on us as legislators that Oregon has the 4th highest income tax rate in the nation for those making $75,000 per year. Therefore, a tax deduction on a substantial portion of one's income is not insignificant. We should be clear-eyed in seeing that this bill alone will certainly not fix our housing crisis. Anyone who says that their policy will fix all of our problems is not being honest. But there is one answer. We have to make a multi-pronged approach. We must work to increase housing supply of all kinds. We must address our land use system and our runaway system development charges. We need to ensure buildable land has affordable infrastructure in place. And all of this is needed. Senate Bill 2 is one of the arrows in the quiver, one of the low-hanging fruit policies that, if implemented properly, will be able to yield near immediate results. There aren't many of those policies when it comes to housing, and I hope that you will join us in supporting this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Weber. Any questions for the senator? Mr. President, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Chair Meek, Vice Chair Boquist, Senator Jama, Senator Finley, Senator Golden, our amazing Legislative Revenue Office staff. For the record, I'm Rob Wagner. I represent areas in the South Metro communities of Southwest Portland, Lake Oswego, Westland, Tualatin, River Grove, and Durham, as well as the Stafford Hamlet. And I'm here to speak with you and joining with my colleague, who miraculously, we are in 2 places at once. We are both in the Senate Finance and Revenue Committee, and we're through that wall as the Vice Chair of Education and just a lowly member. So we will be needing to return because I have a feeling they're trying to figure out how to get a quorum. But I am here today to talk to you about Senate Bill 2, which you'll notice is low in the bill stack, because I believe it's such an important concept as part of one of the issues that we can do to address housing in the state and address our crisis right now. We've heard this, and we'll hear this again over and over again this legislative session. I want to echo Senator Weber. Everywhere we go in every community across the state, we hear that we are tens of thousands, if not 100,000 units or more short of what we need for affordable housing options. The housing crisis in Oregon is of the biggest concern to voters right now. And it is incumbent on us that we reflect those values in our communities by bringing forward innovative, thoughtful approaches to solving our housing crisis at all levels. Tonight, we will get the opportunity to vote on 2 really important bills with House Bill 2001 and House Bill 5019 up on the floor. And I'm excited to know that When those pass, it should be on the governor's desk by the end of the week. And it is really unprecedented the legislature is acting this early, and I think it just signals how important it is that we're taking that first tranche in addressing this crisis. It also isn't a panacea that we know. We're living in a time of inflation right now, increased costs of living are racking our communities, and people are looking for a way to earn a little bit more money to pay for essentials like food and gas and housing. And inflation particularly hurts Oregonians who have a low or fixed income, especially those who have reached retirement age. And so this brings me to Senate Bill 2, which would create an important incentive for Oregonians who have a bit of extra space in their home to rent out a room. And you'll hear more from the advocates from HomeShare and some of the experts today to share their perspectives and how this is actually operationalizing, and it's really exciting. So to take advantage of the tax credit that's mentioned in the legislation, the rent cannot be more than $1,000 per month, and the renter would have to occupy that room for no less than 3 consecutive months out of a year. And there are a lot of empty nesters, a lot of seniors who are having trouble affording their mortgage, and this would be one of those solutions that we could use. In my neighborhood, I'll talk about this, and I'm sure this might be reflected in some of the communities that you represent. It seems like houses are just getting bigger and bigger right now, either in terms of what we're building or in terms of the tear downs and rebuilds. Everybody wants more and more. And yet people are living more and more isolated right now. And if you think about it, I have somebody who's 3 doors up from us. She's a grandmother. She moved here from Texas. She wanted to be closer to her grandkids. The house is 4-bedroom right now. And if you think about, yeah, she visits her family and they come visit her, but that's a lot of additional space and she's taking on that mortgage. Wouldn't it be great thinking about how much it costs just to bring one more unit online to provide her the opportunity to have someone and a little bit of an incentive to have someone come live with her? So it's a win-win for our communities. I do want to note that there's sibling legislation, so we're a little bit of a copycat on the House side on this House Bill 3032, but we thought that it was critically important to be able to have this conversation in the Senate as well. I also want to note that Department of Revenue is working with the advocates on amendments to address some of the concerns that we'll probably hear today as well. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify. I do believe probably Senator Dembro is wondering where we are. Probably. So unless there are pressing questions, and I'm happy to talk to any of you offline as well.
Senator Golden.
I don't know about pressing, but you just got me so intrigued that I think I want to delay you for a couple of minutes. I don't often get to tell the Senate President he has to stay someplace for a couple of minutes.
There are 3 other senators over there, so it's not a quorum issue. He's trying to run out on us.
That's right. First of all,
May I say something? Please, Senator Golden. This is not a new concept. If you will think back to the Old West, when people were traveling through, people were renting out rooms in their houses so that people would have a place to stay. When soldiers came back from the war and they had nowhere to live, they were renting out rooms in people's homes. And so this is just an old-fashioned way brought into a new century with a new twist. And I think that it can be very successful.
so I want to keep this short. I do know you're pressed for time. First of all, I want to thank you for the brainstorming spirit of this. Senator Weber, when you say, there are a lot of tools, a lot of things we have to pay attention to try to solve this problem, you're absolutely right. I like the phrase, there's no silver bullet, but there may be a lot of silver buckshot, and maybe we have to think big here and to do what if. So I don't want to say, well, what about this and what about that one? But I just want two points occur to me. One is, if we're trying to incentivize people to rent their rooms out, why can't that happen now? Why can't the woman you talked about put an ad anywhere and rent a room out? There is an available financial incentive in the private market that we don't have to put on the other taxpayers of Oregon.
Yeah, and Chair Meek, Vice Chair Boquist, and Senator Golden, that's a really good point. And some of the testimony you might hear is also, why aren't we putting it on the renter side of the equation in terms of trying to provide some additional incentive for people to think about this as an option? People are doing this right now. You're going to hear from advocates from HomeShare who actually are setting up a pretty innovative model to try to connect people into this. I think it's one of those things that we can broadcast and try to incent people to be able to think about how can I actually benefit and how can the state be a partner in that. So I will say I'm not necessarily married to the details around the credit. I think there's a lot of potential work that we could be doing, but I really believe that the program itself is of unique value as one of the silver buckshots that we need to be pushing.
You want to get these vacant rooms used and utilized if they're in the homes of willing owners, and I
Yes,
get that.
yeah, Chair Meek, Vice Chair Boquist, and Senator Golden, that's absolutely right. And I think that you're going to hear from the advocate community that have actually worked as a nonprofit to set up easier ways to facilitate this to happen for people who own these homes and that are renting these rooms. So again, for me, it's just, there's the opportunity here. If we could just do 1% or less of the available space right now, there are so many bedrooms right now. Even if you just think about it as downward supply. So I think about my son who's living in a house with 4 other guys in Corvallis right now. I mean, if he just did room for rent with someone, that opens a space, which then opens a space, which opens a space. And so if you just think about it in terms of rental availability to take off some of the pressure that we have right now on existing rental stock, I think this is a really unique idea.
Love the conversation, Mr. Chair, but I think in the interest of time, I'll save my other questions.
Thank you, Senator Golden. And it sounds like a potential college housing opportunity out there, right?
Awesome.
Thank you, Senator, Mr. President Wagner, Senator Weber. Thank you so much for coming today. And I will now